Should I ask Mario a version of this question? Like, when you look at great athletes in whatever walk, they are the ones that do not care about their numbers.
Yep.
Cam is on the brink of 15,000 yards in his career, and we haven't had a chance to ask him yet, but I'm certain he's going to say he does not care. What is it about the great ones that makes them not care about the individual stuff?
I think it bleeds over into what we talked about last week, and like when bad things happen, you just keep playing ball. If you have that mentality that's tough like that, I think you block everything out. Like, I'd be surprised if he even knew, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I was just in my office talking to him about certain things offensively, and you know, he's got blinders on, and he thinks about the next play, thinks about the next game when that one's over with. So, you know, I think those guys that are resilient, you know, tend to not care about those things, you know.
Shannon,
That's a good thing. Go
All
ahead.
right. Edwin Williams obviously comes in relief of Cam, plays most of 2 quarters, and looked phenomenal. How have you seen him grow from last year? Obviously, as a year of the injury, but when he played last year, he looked like a much more polished quarterback, it felt like, on Saturday. So how have you seen him grow over the course of the last year?
You know, I think Emory's made tremendous strides. You know, you think about what he went through last year with the injury, and, you know, we didn't know when he was coming back. He worked his tail off and got back for spring. I think he would even tell you this, that, you know, being around Cam has probably been the most beneficial. Watching him go about how he does, watching, you know, sitting and talking about how to read specific plays, especially like verticals and stuff that there's like some gray area in the play. Just seeing space in a different way, I think has probably been the most beneficial to him.
And the Bill, just camaraderie between the quarterbacks. Cam talked Saturday about after every drive, they're all going over film together. They're motivating each other, one over the other. Even though Cam wants to be in the fourth quarter, he's trying to talk to either Emory or Reese when they're in the game the last 2 weeks. Just the camaraderie, how much does that help the room with everybody trying to push each other even when they know that Cam is the guy?
Well, I mean, I think it's vital. You know, if you don't have that, then, you know, from the first practice, from the first meeting, you know, it is stated very clearly that you support whoever's in the game. You know, and so, yeah, we're competitive. Everybody competes, right, to a point. And then when the starter's named, then that's the guy, and we support him. And whoever's in the game, it's easy with those guys because they like each other. You know, it's very organic with those guys. I mean, their banter and interaction on a daily basis is comical at most of the time, but you can tell those guys really respect and like each other. So I like to see, you know, that. You know, if you watch the game and at the end, whenever people were making plays, one of the things that sticks out to me is, like, you look on the video and our starters are on the sideline and they're the ones cheering the hardest, you know, for those guys, which I think is key.
With UCF, just want to get your opinion on their defense, specifically like front seven. They like to bring a lot of heat on these passing outs.
We don't play UCF.
To USF, I'm sorry about that.
You know, I think they're an extremely talented bunch, to be honest with you. I think they, from their linebackers to their back end, I mean, they trigger, you know, harder than anybody we played this year. I mean, they really get after it. They have a lot of turnovers in very advantageous times because they put their hat on the ball, you know. And so ball security is utmost importance every week, but you see it this week a little bit more because they knock the ball out a lot. You know, they just do. And so, and they fly around. I mean, blocking those guys on the perimeter, I mean, we gotta strap it on and get ready because they will trigger. And they're tough to handle up front. I mean, you know, they rush the passer, they hit the quarterback a lot, they get a lot of negative plays, they're very disruptive. I mean, it's going to be a challenge for sure.
How much does it help? Mario said that Inez and Jalen should be back this week to be able to have basically your line back. And how would you evaluate how the line has done through the first 3 games?
I thought they've done excellent. You know, I mean, that's part of the competitive depth that everybody talks about wanting and not always having. But our O-line room is extremely talented. And so those guys step in and you really don't even notice it because they just do their job. And so a lot of our rooms are like that. You know, look at the running back room, for instance. I mean, good gracious. I mean, we got guys getting carries that at the end that look really, really, really good. And so the motivation factor in those rooms is high, which is what it should be. But the O-line, in my opinion, has been, I mean, you should see the pockets that Cam's throwing from. I mean, it's unbelievable. And, go ahead.
How you doing that? Speaking of talented offensive linemen, Frank Noah was named the Conference Lineman of the Week, and I think he's the highest rated offensive lineman on PFF in the ACC, if you take that for what it's worth. How have you seen him kind of grow from the...
Who?
Francis Noah.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Oh.
Sorry. Just how have you seen him grow over the course of the last, 8-9 months? I know he didn't practice in spring, but how has he gotten better to live up to his potential?
I mean, honestly, he's been pretty steady since I've been here. He's just one of those guys that the game's pretty slow for him. And again, he's no different than what I talked about Emory. I mean, he came back from injury and really hadn't missed a beat. I mean, he's as steady as it is on the edge, and we're excited about the way he goes about his business.
And then Chris Johnson, he got that, he had a couple of big, good plays so far this year, but he had that touchdown last Saturday, gets in space. How dangerous of a weapon is he with that speed of this?
I mean, speed's where it's at, right? And so he has a lot of it, so we're just trying to find ways to get him involved. I mean, the one thing about him that's really neat is that he's a running, I mean, he can do everything that we do at running back. And so you put him in there and you just call plays. He isn't a guy that we're like trying to do certain things with. I mean, obviously he has a different skill set, but literally every play on the script is things that he can execute. And he's just in a situation like some of these guys that we just talked about. It's like we have guys that are starting and playing that are older, and right now they're playing at a high level. And so, finding ways to get those guys involved is crucial, and finding times in the game, and not any time, just whenever, right, is vital.
Shannon, when you put up 62 on the scoreboard, when you put a school record for 750 yards, whatever it was, I'm sure it's not hard for you to still go to the film and say these are the corrections. But
Yeah.
what's it like when kids are kids and they see huge numbers? How is this group as far as saying, yeah, there's still a lot of things, like every week, we can still do better, even with the numbers being what they are?
Well, it's fairly easy to see where you could do better. I know that's, obviously it was a lot of yards, but, and like Cam, I'll just point him out specifically. He'd be the first to tell you right now that he left some meat on the bone. He did. There was about 3 or 4 plays out there that he could have done better on, right? And every position is like that. You're never going to play a squeaky clean, perfect game. But ultimately, there's always room for improvement. And to answer the first part of your question is that, you better treat this week to week. If you don't, it's a very humbling game. And if you're around enough and you think that you got things figured out, then just play one more week and see, right? And so ultimately what happens last week has nothing to do with what's going to happen Saturday. If we don't prepare the right way, then we're not going to go out there and be successful. And so we better treat Monday like Monday and Tuesday like Tuesday, regardless of the result of the last week. And, I don't even really talk about the game that we just played. I congratulate them, I move on, and we talk about the next opponent. Because ultimately, we're trying to be 1-0 every week. And what happened the last week, and if you're successful, what happened the last week can only hurt you, to be quite honest.
What did you like about what Jacoby did on Saturday?
I thought he played really fast. I talked to those receivers all week about just being hard to tackle. Play fast, which playing fast really has nothing to do with like your actual speed. There's people that can play fast that run 4.75, right? It's been proven over time. Like straining your body, getting vertical right now, being hard to tackle is playing fast. And I thought he played extremely fast when the ball hit his hand. So when the ball hit his hand, he got vertical. And even though the play stepped out of bounds, he was like shot out of a cannon. And so I thought he played really, really fast. And he is fast, so those two combined together are good. But we don't always play fast. We gotta, those details are very minute about, especially at receiver and skill guys. I mean, the element of just getting straight vertical fast is like something that it baffles me how you miss that.
When you're recruiting at a high level, it creates depth. Depth creates
Yeah.
competition. What is a game like the one A.J. Allen does for a guy like that on the depth chart?
I mean, I think to me, it should permeate the whole group, meaning that I think he's a great example of a guy that, if things aren't working out for you, there's two ways you can go, right? You can be, victim mentality is easy in today's world, because everybody has it, My daughters are a prime example. I get on the one, and she was like, well, Baker did this. Well, I ain't talking about Baker, I'm talking about you, right? And so, trying to scratch out that victim mentality with this generation is an everyday job, right? So you take a kid like him, like it's easy to sit there and say, get down, have a bad attitude, you're not getting what you need to get, supposedly, but you better be ready when your number's called. And he stayed positive, he works his tail off in practice, and then when his number was called, I mean, he played extremely well. And so, to me, there's a lot of guys in that offensive room, and defensive too, but I coach offense obviously, but there's a lot of guys in that room that can learn a lot of lessons from what he has been through lately and what he did Saturday. I'm very proud of the performance he had and his attitude that he's shown and his effort and all the rest.
Does he have a trait that's different from the other backs?
Well, I mean, I think everybody's obviously got some different traits, right? I do think AJ is very hard to tackle. He has a low center of gravity. Like, you can tell that at the end. Like, there were some people that were in open spaces and he goes forward, and that was the same way last year. I mean, he's hard to tackle. And so when he gets in the open field, he can go, he can turn it on. And so.
All of that said, how do you manage the depth chart with those guys in terms of who's in the game, who's going to get reps, and where do you have Damian in all this? Is he getting to the point where he's ready for a bigger load?
No, he is. I mean, it just so happened that game, I mean, position coaches are like, and we talk about it leading up to games, I mean, there's going to be a pattern, right? And so we're trying to get people involved that have proven that they need to be involved. And so ultimately when games like that happen, when it's back around to like Damian's turn, if the game is out of hand, then we're going to go with younger guys and give them an opportunity. So it's nothing to do with what he did or didn't do. It just, that was the way the flow of the game went, And obviously you look at running backs and we want to we have a very talented room, right? So we're trying to get people involved, but we don't want to disrupt one person's ability to get going. You know what I mean? So there has to be a flow to it. And Matt does a great job of having his finger on that flow. I'll be honest with you, through the course of the game, I just trust him about the rotation of running backs. There's certain plays on the script or certain situations where I might ask for somebody, but ultimately the starting of drives and the flow of it, he has a great handle on that, and so I just let him do what he does.
Do you like where you're at? Do you like where you're at right now in terms of the balance between? I'm certain there's a lot of things in the book that you haven't shown yet, but you probably have a much better sense now than what you're really good at than what you probably did 3 weeks ago too. What is that balance like? Trying to figure out that.
You talking about scheme-wise or just the balance of
Yes.
what? Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, you go through camp and you have a pretty good feel, right? But until you do it in games and you see what people are very comfortable doing, and I have a really good feeling. I mean, obviously with Cam, it's a little bit unique because, I mean, he can play the game and he sees things at a different rate. And so, but I mean, overall, yeah, after 3 games, we have a good feel for what we're good at, but we're really not even close to scratching the surface with what we're going to do in certain aspects. And a lot of that, like, you can compartmentalize offense into pass game, run game, screens, and stuff like that. There's a couple of them that we hadn't even used, like 5 or 10% of what is going to be used. So.